Hey everybody, welcome to the Citizen Sports Weekly. I'm Robert Hardy, joined by
Not Chris Sciria,
Chris Sciria.
otherwise known as Jonathan Monfiletto.
It's good to be with you this week. Of course, sitting in for Chris because we're going to be talking about NASCAR.
We are, and I got to say something because Chris had the column, and I think it was today's paper, or was it yesterday? Where he said that there's nothing going on in sports right now, so it's kind of whole home season. So you might call me the anti-Chris. Kind of see what I did there?
Yeah.
Because there's plenty going on, because this weekend is the first official race of the NASCAR season, the Daytona 500.
And of course, our local boy,
Regan Smith is in.
I
was so excited. That happened just about a month ago. Of course, he ran for GR Motorsports in the Xfinity Series for the past 3 seasons. Great run there, 5 wins, top 5 point finishes every year. And then they parted ways, and he literally had nothing. And then, like I said, about a month ago, Tommy Baldwin Racing announced that they hired him to drive in the Sprint Cup Series. And I had the chance to talk to Regan a couple of days ago, and that was it's always great to hear from, like you said, the local boy.
Yeah.
A lot of people in Cape counties and really Central New York as a whole still consider them their favorite son and their favorite driver. So he was very excited because I asked, how does it feel, and he says, I literally had nothing, and then Tommy called me up and he said, of course I wasn't going to say no.
Right.
I jumped at the chance. He said he made the point that, look, Cup rides don't just come open that late before the first race of the season. And he's pretty optimistic about his season. Tommy Baldwin Racing is a single-car team, been around for 8 years, but not a premier team by any means. Yeah, I mean maybe one day they will be. So Regan realizes he's not going to go out and win 5 races and win the championship and just totally dominate. But he says he's optimistic that they can continue building on what the team's been doing for the past 8 years. He says if they were running 30th last year, we want to run top 25, top 20. I think he can, to be honest.
Yeah. The story, which you can find on auburnpub.com and Skaneateles.com. To me, what stuck out is, the fact that he talked about, the first time that he was in, the Sprint Cup, that he maybe didn't have enough experience yet, that he wasn't ready, but now, he's had the time in Xfinity for the past couple of years, and so now he comes into it really as a little bit more experienced.
Yeah, that was interesting. I wasn't really, if I was going to point to like a surprise of the interview, that would probably be it. It's just that. I asked, what have you learned in the last 4 years of being out of the Cup Series? And yeah, it was interesting. He said, first time around, I was kind of young, little inexperienced, hadn't quite matured yet as a driver, had that 3 years in the Xfinity Series to grow and really know what the car's doing and what he wants it to do. So, coming back in, I think he comes in with a better mindset, more experience.
Yeah. So let's start talking about Daytona, because, of course, that's the focal point of the video this week. Obviously Regan Smith in that, along with 42 of his closest friends.
No, actually 39.
39 of his closest friends.
With the new charter system.
Forgot the new system.
They've cut the field down to 40 cars, which is interesting.
I think it'll be good.
I think it'll be good. I think it'll make it a little bit more competitive because you won't have as many of. I see the pros and cons of it. The pro is that you'll probably have a more competitive field just because you'll cut it down to the point where you're kind of kicking back some of those slower, less competitive cars that are. But at the same time, you do cut out those guys that really just wanted to, especially for Daytona, just put a car together and see what they can do with it. So, like I said, pros and cons of the charter system. But it should be 40-car field. 36 of them are guaranteed in with his new charter system, Regan Smith and TBR included. So that's definitely a plus to know that.
Absolutely.
If you're one of those teams that's always been kind of on the bubble, you don't have to worry. I mean, you still want to qualify well, but you don't have to worry week to week whether you're going to be in the race or not. And
that is a plus. So let's get into the race.
Sure.
Let's throw out a random number. 3 drivers you think who could really take this home this year.
Oh gosh, Dale Jr. is always a favorite. It goes back to his father was the restrictor plate king on Daytona and Talladega, so he's always got it. If you're going to set a fantasy team, you got to put Dale Jr. on it. Absolutely, no questions asked. Put him on. number 2, I'm going to tell you my dark horse, but
You're gonna say
you
that.
know, I think the Gibbs. I got to tell you what, the Joe Gibbs cars look really strong in the Sprint Unlimited. Denny Hamlin won it. But Matt Kenseth ran well. I mean, Kyle Busch and Carl Edwards were up there. So I would say going with a Gibbs driver, not a bad pick at all. It was interesting. They were interviewing Kyle Busch and they said, "How would you like to go from being the champion last year to being Daytona 500 winner this year?" And he says, "That's what we want." So I wouldn't be surprised to see a Gibbs car running well. And honestly, it's not because I like him and just because I just interviewed him, but I think Regan Smith could be a kind of a dark horse.
He runs well.
He's run well. He won the Daytona Xfinity race 2 years ago. He's won at Talladega before. It's kind of a similar track. He reminded me that Tommy Baldwin won the 500 as a crew chief in 2002 with Ward Burton, so he's no stranger to the victory lane there. And the Tommy Baldwin cars always just seem to run well at Daytona. I mean, that's kind of restrictor plate racing is kind of an equalizer because you're kind of in a bunched up pack, and really, if you can find the right way to the front, I mean, anybody could win it. And I think with Regan's experience and Tommy's expertise, I think they could put together an upset potentially.
Yeah. I'd have to go, and you mentioned one of my 3 drivers, Denny Hamlin. I always enjoy watching Hamlin race. Obviously one of the best drivers out there, and I can see him winning Daytona this year.
Absolutely.
I think it would be a good start for
Sure.
him. He's had some ups and downs over the past few seasons, so this would be a good time to really have a great race, and winning Daytona would be pretty cool for him. Can't bet against Kevin Harvick.
Yeah, that's true. The Stewart Haas cars
are
what doing. They always run fast. And
every time I seem to be, paying more attention to some other drivers out there, there's Harvick to remind you, hey,
Harvick is
around. So,
yeah. He'll be in contention at Homestead for the championship. I think he's a good pick all year long, really.
Yeah, and it's looking for one of these young guns. Chase Elliott.
Chase Elliott's on the pole, which is interesting. It's actually the 3rd time in the last 4 years they've had a rookie on the pole for Daytona.
Right.
Yeah, Danica Patrick in 2013, then Austin Dillon in 2014. Yeah. None of them have really seemed to capitalize on that per se. Danica did finish top 10 the year she was on the pole, but it'll be interesting to see how Chase Elliott does. Big shoes to fill, no doubt. He's in Jeff Gordon's car.
No kidding.
I mean, that's like driving the 43 or the number 3, for that matter.
Big shoes, but certainly a good position for him to be in a car with a veteran
absolutely.
team.
Yeah, that's
not too many rookies get that advantage.
Yeah. I mean, to get probably one of the most top rides out there, being 20, 21 years old, that's pretty fantastic. So I think he'll be one to watch this year just to see how he matures and grows as a driver. And I mean, he's got obviously Jimmy Johnson as a teammate, Dale Jr., Casey. I mean, you can't go wrong when Dale Jr. and Jimmy Johnson are your teammates.
Right. Yeah. Good people to really learn from, and just good people around you.
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
Really, to improve yourself as a driver, and to really help you grow in the business, of course, because it is a business, with the competition and all your sponsor requirements and that kind of thing.
I'll tell you who you don't want on your fantasy team. That's unfortunately Tony Stewart. Which is
his last year.
It makes me
he's hurt.
Kind of want to cry just to think about just all he's been through in the past 2-3 years, and just to have this happen. And they say he'll be out at least 3 months. So you're looking at, I sort of the similar time frame that Kyle Busch was out, but don't expect Tony Stewart to come back and win the championship.
Yeah, no, that would be quite surprising.
And a lot of fans out there on social media are saying, well, maybe Tony will run next year just to make a full run his last season. He says, nope, I'm committed. So
yeah, I don't blame him. I mean, he's had a tough go of it lately, and certainly getting up there, and he's there's a big difference between Tony Stewart being 45 and Kyle Busch being 30. Just, right.
As anybody knows, recovering from an injury, the older you get, the slower the process is. So.
Exactly. So, if you had to pick, who's your early pick to win the title this year?
The title?
Obviously a wide open field, but...
I'll tell you what, I'll give you the final 4.
The Final
Homestead.
Four? Okay.
Absolutely, Kyle Busch is going to be there. I mean, if he can take what he did last year and 2/3 of the schedule, and do that in a full season this year, I mean, he's going to be tough to beat.
Sure.
Harvick, like you said, I have no doubts that he's going to be there. I mean, this is his third year with Stewart Haas Racing, and every year he's a contender. I wouldn't be surprised to see Dale Jr. step it up. If you look back last year, he just narrowly missed in that Talladega race just before the elimination, and then he went and won Phoenix, which if he had gotten through Talladega, would have put him in the Final Four. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him step it up this year. It's so hard to pick just because there's just so many top drivers out there. Maybe Denny Hamlin. I mean, maybe another Gibbs driver. They just were on fire last year. I mean, Matt Kenseth. I think Carl Edwards had 2 wins, and that was the least of the Gibbs drivers as a win total.
Had a good
so
season,
I mean,
yeah.
you can't go wrong with that.
Yeah, I'd say for my Final Four, Hamlin, of course. I raved about him before. Joey Logano.
I did forget Joey Logano. But
he's another guy I should have mentioned in the Daytona 500 talk. I think this is a guy who has shown that he can win any race.
Yeah, and he won the 500 last year.
Right,
so
and hey, why not go for the repeat? So Brad Keselowski.
Oh, yeah.
Can't forget about him. And you know what? Jimmy Johnson. I think after the
season... Interestingly enough, Jimmy Johnson never made the Final Four.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'd be...
He had such a rough stretch last year,
yeah.
and, especially late in the season, I think, they're going to come back a little bit motivated, and they're going to want to get over that hump because, this newer format, really hasn't, he hasn't been lucky.
That's really what it comes down to is just luck sometimes.
Yeah, sometimes you get fortunate and you make it in, but I think we've talked enough NASCAR, right?
You can never talk enough NASCAR. I could go on and on and on.
Jonathan will probably check in a couple times this season. Of course, Watkins Glen is in August. We like to bring him on for that because it's our local race. Of course, when we get closer in the championship, we'll bring him on. We might bring him on before that too. Never know when Chris needs to step away and we need someone to fill in.
Anytime Chris or Robert needs a vacation,
that's right.
Happy to step
He's
in.
our go-to. So we'll wrap it up there. But Jonathan, thanks for coming on the video this week.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
Needed our NASCAR guru for this.
Is that my official title? Can that go on my paycheck, NASCAR
Senior guru? NASCAR guru.
Does that make you like the junior NASCAR guru, or?
I'm just the.
Oh, okay.
But Chris will be back next week. We'll be talking something, maybe recapping Daytona, talking about baseball, whatever.
Probably March Madness by that point, right?
Probably, yeah. We'll
get ready.
We'll be getting close to the tournament. Some of the conference tournaments and stuff. So we'll see.
Soon enough, it'll be time for me to fill up my bracket, and then 2 weeks later, rip it to pieces.
That's right. That's right.
It's been a good tradition.
Free money for someone else, basically. Yeah. Thanks for joining us this week. Like I said, Chris will be back next week. Thanks again to Jonathan, and we'll see you next week for another edition of the Citizen Sports Weekly.